What's up, everyone? Before we get into the pod this week, just wanted to touch on two things. Number one, this Friday night, that is Friday, June 7th, at the Medusa Bar in Brooklyn, New York. The best dressed man on the pod, Dan, is DJing. He is bringing his Britpop night to the East Coast. So you got to go check that out. 9 p.m. at the Medusa Bar in Brooklyn. It is free, so no excuses. Get out there, dance to some Britpop, say what's up to Dan, and that's what's up. Okay, also, June 21st at the House of Blues in San Diego, Hot Water Music and Quicksand are playing. If you want to go, I got free tickets. Go ahead and hit me up. First two people that email me, I got a set of tickets for you. So 4 tickets total, 2 sets. Hit me up, Hot Water Music and Quicksand at House of Blues. It is June 21st, 2024. Handle business 185 miles south at gmail.com. That's 185 miles south at gmail.com. And I got those tickets for you. All right, let's get on with the show. 185milessouth.com.
Smash that Patreon button.
185 miles south. 2 words. Straight fucking edge.
You think that you know, but what you know is nothing. The lies that you've been told ain't the lies that I've been telling. Fuck it!
What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we are back and talking hardcore. We're going to get into the year 2004. Helping out, you know him, you love him. It is the best dressed man on the pod. It is Daniel Sant. What's up, Dan?
Ooh, baby, you got what I need.
Also helping out, it is Ben Merlis, a.k.a. Ben Edge, a.k.a. Bedge. What's up, Ben?
But you say he's just a friend?
And rounding us out, don't call him Cincinnati. It is the man known as Clevo. What's up, Clevo?
It was supposed to be so easy.
Oh, the streets. Love it.
Yeah. So, dude, it's been 20 years since 2004. You feel old yet, Dan?
Absolutely. This is, yes. Someone told me the other day at the shop that something that blew my mind. They were like, remember in like 1985 when we used to think back to like the 50s and it feeling like 50 generations ago? And then there's actually been more time elapsed from now to 1985 from then. It's crazy.
Yeah, math people don't get at us. But yeah, this is wild. Dude, this was my most washed up year of my life. So in 2004, my band Igatrol, we broke up and I was a bitter piece of shit. And yeah, so this is a year that I don't know, I wasn't really checked out. We broke up in November, December. And yeah, in 05, I was pretty bummed out too. So like, I don't know. It's been a fun refresher on this stuff because it was not a time that I was super stoked on hardcore personally. But looking back on it, there's a lot of stuff I really like. So yeah, Clevo, what do you think? 2004?
So 2004 was the first year in a long time that I wasn't in a band anymore. And the Red had broken up in 2003. And, you know, I think that music-wise, as you're going to see with some of these picks I make tonight, I think I started to get a little weirder with my musical tastes and less kind of straightforward hardcore, although I don't think there's a ton of straightforward hardcore we're going to talk about tonight. We'll get into the list. Also, like 2003, 2004 probably might have been the only time that all 4 of us were in like band overlap where we were all probably in bands around the same time and like active in the scene. And that was really like the last time I was like super, super active and like being in a band.
Yeah. Dan, 2004, what do you think?
It is a time where a band I was in was coming to a close. And it was just in the absolute heyday of me just absolutely loving everything about hardcore, finding new bands, being excited about things all the time. while being, in a hardcore sense, a little bit of an elder statesman, even though I was probably only like, mid to late 20s.
Definitely not mid-20s, Dan, if I was 24. Come on.
Okay. Mid to late. Right in that pocket.
but closer to late. Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Looking good. Being the best dressed man back then. And rocking the blonde unicorn pos top. I really loved this time. I love this time at the Che. I love this time in Southern California hardcore. I love this time in what, like Clevo alluded to, like things branching out and other sounds coming in as well. I think it's just a really great time for music and camaraderie and community at the time, even though some of us were breaking up their bands and becoming bitter pieces of shit.
Yeah, dude. So at Sync with Cali, I think it was 03. No, it had to be 03 or 04, whenever it was. Like, man, if that was 03, then I was a washed up piece of shit that year too.
I know. You and I were good friends around this time, or you and I are good friends, but we communicated a lot around these years, and I would constantly have to be G'ing you up and like trying to like get you to, this is good, like don't shit on it, blah blah blah, because you were like, fuck these kids, fuck everyone.
Yeah, I still feel like that. I just have learned to be nicer. So it is what it is. Ben, give us the rundown on 2004.
It's Cold World versus Cold Sweat. It's Dead Fall versus Dead Stop. It's Death Before Dishonor versus Two Word Death Threat. 2004 is a quote-unquote amazing, in all caps, year with releases by Verse, Have Heart, With Honor, and Killing the Dream. Epic-sounding bands where the drama is cranked all the way to 10. Rivalry Records in NorCal is going strong. The one and only studio LP by Champion comes out. Shout out Posy Chris. With or Without You EP comes out. Shout out Andy Deinhard. Meanwhile, in Portland, Oregon, Dirt Nap Records is cranking out regular ass punk with releases by The Marked Men, The Epoxies, and The Spits. Okay, The Spits are anything but regular. Locking Out Records in Boston is on fire with a roster of bands like Mental, Righteous Jams, Cold World, and Justice, who are drawing influences from Supertouch, Underdog, the song Clobbering Time by Sick of It All, and the more rapidy elements of NYHC. There is kinda, sorta, but not really a third wave of youth crew starting to bubble with bands like Our Turn, The Reunited Instead, and Stand and Fight, who spring out of the ashes of 10 Yard Fight. Annihilation Time and their new singer Jimmy Rose are now incorporating more 70s hard rock influences into their blast flag sound and are still keeping it 100% punk rock. Sync with Cali Fest in the South Bay of LA and Posy Numbers Fest in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania are two of the bigger hardcore fests that are happening at the time. The first glimmers of an early 80s style hardcore renaissance are starting to appear with bands like Career Suicide, Direct Control, Strung Up, Knife Fight, and Deadfall, putting out records on both coasts, and Dead Stop in Belgium. Oh, and how about that No Warning album? Wow.
Oh, okay. Was this Suffer Survive year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Dan, what is a Super 7, and pick the order?
Okay, a Super 7 is a fun, competitive way that we discuss the music of the year, and we go in fantasy football style drafts. Ben is pick 1, I'm pick 2, Clevo is pick 3, and Zach is the Nard Curse, bringing up the rear. And we go in turns. You can select the same band, but you cannot select the same song. So once a song has been chosen, it is gone. And later in the week, we ask the illustrious listeners of 185 to vote on who they think had the best playlist / mixtape. And 2004's got some bangers, so this is going to be a really fun endeavor and some really good it's going to yield an awesome mix at the end of this.
Sick. Okay, Ben, what is the best hardcore song of the year 2004?
I'm going to go with Knife Fight, and the song is Burning Bridges Part 1. And that is from their second EP, which is the Burning Bridges EP, which came out on My War Records, 7-inch. It's kind of mid-tempo, chuggy banger from an otherwise fast hardcore band, completely cast in the mold of Discharge, State Violence, State Control, and Protest and Survive. we talk a lot how we love those mid-tempo bangers, and Knife Fight Deliver. Every time I listen to this, I think, man, that's John Westbrook singing, because he's a friend of mine, and he does not, when his speaking voice is very much not like his singing voice. So he's just so brutal sounding on this song. If you're a fan of Last Rites, that this would be up your alley. If you're a fan of Shark Attack, this would be up your alley. Although, do Shark Attack have those really kind of mid-tempo type songs? I can't think off the top of my head. Anyway, Knife Fight, Burning Bridges Part 1.
I disagree that this is like the Discharge song. I think of the song Destruction off this record is the Discharge song. This is just straight up Last Rite chunks, and so they kind of do both Last Rite songs are on here, right? Like this one's chunks, and Burning Bridges Part 2 is So Ends the Night. It's sick, like it's so sick. And then they got one fast song, and then the Discharge song is that song Destruction. So this is a 4for4 7-inch. This rules. And also, if you go on Discogs, we got a shout out to Bob number 72, who did backup vocals. So shout out Bob 72. What's up, dude? Dan, what do you think about this? You slammed a Knife Fight before, didn't you?
Yes, and I can echo what Ben says about, nice John. Although John in the pit is not as nice. He's Knife Fight John in the pit too. This is my favorite Knife Fight song. And yes, it's always been like chunks to me, this one. It's such a great track. This is such a great EP. I mean, Knife Fight pretty much don't miss. Everything that's in the Knife Fight catalog is a winner, but this is the top of the pile for me.
Hell yeah. Okay, let's see here. Clevo, you want to say anything on this, or should I shoot it at Dan for his number one?
I'm just going to say this was probably going to be my number one pick. And yeah, this is the son of Last Rites. You could practically sing chunks to this song and it fits. So good job, Ben.
Yeah, this is on my short list with a couple backups. Dan, okay, let's go to you. Other than Burning Bridges Part 1, what is the best hardcore song of the year 2004?
Well, I think I'm going to have to be strategic because, there's some other people sniffing around picks, and I've got like a nice good 12 to choose from, but I'm going to take this one first because it's way up there for me anyway, but I'm going to take it to claim it. Keep Your Mouth Shut, Terror. This song is epic. This is on the first full length, like if you count Lowest of the Low as being like either part compilation of everything that came before, or maybe like a elongated EP or extra play as they are. This is the first like LP, and I know like they maybe aren't as happy with the recording as they maybe would be if it on other recordings or whatnot, but this song really shines above. And that part, like the break where it just ends with keep your mouth shut and worry about yourself, and then goes into the marsh. Oh my god, so sick. And that's the part that he generally, like when Terror comes through, there's usually someone that they've either been touring with or a friend in that city that'll get up and do that part, and it's always fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years later, and this is still a staple of the Terror set. This is a great song. I love on the verse when like it's kind of like those ring outs, and then they go to the palm muting. Like it's so sick. And then you're right. Like, I mean, the chorus is just, you don't know me, don't know any of us. So classic. It's just classic Terror.
Yeah, that part's so good. And then the never have it, never, that build. It's like, if you synthesize what makes Terror like the most stalwart like band that has just been doing quality for as long as we're talking about here, from like 2002 to now, it's in parts like that where they nail what hardcore is beyond anything.
Hell yeah. Okay, Clevo, let's go to you for your number one.
So I'm gonna go a little bit out of left field here since Ben took my first pick. And this is a song I want to get because it's probably my most listened to song since 2004. And I'm gonna take Hot Snakes, Plenty for All, off of the Audit in Progress LP. This song is, I think it's very influenced by the Wipers. It just has that riff, just that opening riff just gets you. I love that like pre-chorus, like that Southern California, let's go. And it's just an awesome song. You know, Rick and Swami can write a song, and this is just really high up on the list of Hot Snake songs. So Hot Snakes, Plenty for All. I love this song, and I had to get it on my list.
Dan, it sounds like you're pouting. What is your opinion on this?
Well, this was going to be my number one, but then I was like thinking it might slide by, so I'll let this one ride. I'll take Terror before Zach gets in there, and then I just got snookered by Clevo. Yeah, this song's absolutely amazing, and Clevo just highlights the riff is incredible. Yeah, it is Wipers worship, but it has its own. Just the way the guitar sounds, almost like glockenspiel-ish, is so amazing. And he said it the way Rick Froberg goes, Southern California. That part will get in your head, and you know, an ode to the best place, Southern California.
What about Warrington?
Well, I didn't say God's country. I just said the best place.
Respect. Ben, you want to speak on this, or should I take my number one?
Yeah, I actually saw Hot Snakes right after this album came out in the small room at the Glass House in Pomona, and they were really good. And I was keeping up with all the records as they were coming out, and I had the song Reflex from this record as an honorable. But now that I'm listening to a little bit of Plenty for All on mute, I'm thinking to myself, no, this is better than Reflex. Why didn't I pick this one as my honorable? But great pick, Clevo. This was a really special band. We lost Rick Froberg, who was the singer, either earlier this year or late last year, I forget. Kind of the third band of the Pitchfork, Drive Like Jehu, Hot Snakes trilogy of John Reese and Rick Froberg bands.
All right, I'm going to take my number one. I am going to take the band 86 Mentality, the song Get Away. First of all, this dude is so good at ad-libbing. Like this song, like the and the those. A lot of bands do it, but it's so performative, and this just seems so real. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot to be said for people that play instruments in bands before they sing. You know, like this dude was the guitarist for No Justice, I believe. And I mean, you can't ask for a better singer than Timmy, you know? So I don't know if he was like sitting there being like, God damn it, I wish this guy would do this. You know what I mean? But in his head, he was probably thinking like, if I was singing right now, I would go, you know? And it's like, you don't always want to dictate to the singer what you do if you're like the guitarist. But yeah, I want to shout out on that. And then just to say, like, you know, lots of bands, when you listen to them, they remind you of early 80s hardcore. But there's very few that like you listen to and are like just as good. You know what I mean? And like this could really just slide right in. This 7-inch is absolutely spectacular. That verse riff is so good. And then like I love, again, like with the ad-libbing, like that before he tosses in before the second verse. And the chorus, as it's as catchy, and it's as catchy as you can get for like hardcore punk, right? Get away, just get away from me. You know what I mean? Like it's perfect. And it's a sentiment that we've all felt, dude. You know, just you want someone to get the fuck away from you. You know what I mean? I feel like that every day. You know what I mean? It's like the one thing that I liked about COVID was that 6 feet rule. Like, I just don't want someone breathing on my neck in the fucking supermarket. Like, straight up, get away from me, fool. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I love this song for that. I love his vocal cadence. And I love that, like, in his vocal cadence, he gets even gnarlier on the second verse, like more aggressive. And then I love that this song, instead of having a breakdown, there's like that riff change that goes into like that nice ass little lead. It's just an absolutely perfect hardcore song, you know? And again, back to the dude, because I talked about his, his ad-libbing shit, but like, let's just talk about his voice in general. Like, it just rules, dude. You know what I mean? It's like Darby Crash, Sid Vicious, and Ian Curtis are like sitting around in the afterlife, and they're like passing out like, okay, who gets like a mid voice, who gets like a bitch ass voice, and who gets like the sickest voice. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, let's gift this young bald bastard like the sickest voice on earth. You know what I mean? And he got the golden voice, dude. Like straight up, like this voice rips so hard. And yeah, stoked. I think it deserves number one. And that's it. 86 Mentality, Get Away. Dan, what do you think?
This is a fucking banger. I feel like 86 Mentality really influenced the new wave of British hardcore. Like a lot of those bands, like Violent Reaction and you know, just that whole wave, like just the aggression. It's interesting you're saying this dude has like god tier vocals handed down from those up on high. It's so funny. Like I've always thought his voice is like, imagine if instead of Kanye doing Through the Wire, he's like, fuck it, I'm going to sing for a hardcore band. This dude's voice, he always sounds like his mouth's wired shut. He's like, oh no, because he's so like, rah, like growly. It sounds like it's coming out that way, and I love it. It's a really.
I think like in the studio, he's like chewing on a piece of beef jerky while he's yelling. You know, that's how grown he is.
Or just chewing on someone's arm. The engineer
right.
looked at him wrong, and he's just chomping on the arm.
That's right. Ben, you got anything on this?
It's a very of the moment sound. Like if this band came out today, it would be like, yep, this is one of the lanes that a lot of people are walking down, but this band was doing it 20 years ago. So, you know, that Oi influenced hardcore thing. Like I could completely see, you know, this band playing with Restraining Order or a lot of those British bands. So they can, you know, laugh at everyone for having done all this 20 years ago.
All right, Ben, what is the second best hardcore song of 2004 in your humble opinion?
I'm going to pick the song Kiss My Ass by Dead Stop from their debut LP Done With You on Complete Control Records in their native Belgium and on Deranged Records in North America. Obviously named after a Negative Approach song. But what else is going on here? It's not, you know, they're not a Negative Approach clone for sure. It's like ripping medium fast early 80s style hardcore with guitar leads. And they totally nail the production for this kind of music. Like, does it actually sound like it's from the early 80s? I don't know, but it's just so perfect for the style they're doing. Like, I have no complaints whatsoever production wise. And I was listening to it earlier today and I was thinking, I think I compared too many bands to CIA. It's like CIA was not that popular of a band. How could they have been that influential? But when I think of like medium fast early 80s hardcore with guitar leads, that's where my head goes. But if you take out the gruff vocals, like the verses, they're total Minor Threat, like which never occurred to me until today. It's like, oh, no wonder I love this so much. Like chord progression wise, this is very Minor Threat. And maybe you could even say like Victim in Pain a little bit. But it's just, this is the song for this band for me. That's the first song on the record. Just pop it on and start punching the air in front of you while you're doing the dishes.
This album sounds so good. I got a couple songs shortlisted, so I don't know if I'll show my hand yet. But yeah, this album sounds so good. And again, it's like, you know, a band definitely doing a throwback style to that like early 80s shit, like 81 to 84. But it sounds so fresh and so good. And like, I'm mesmerized that these bands were able to figure out how to like get good recordings, you know, in this era. Cause like I always whiffed on it, you know, and like 86 Mentality in this, like, God damn, the record sounds so good, you know, so raw, but so bright and like not hiding behind any sort of studio tricks. It's just out there. Like, you know, like there's a bravado to it, like not hiding behind the bullshit. And being raw, just like in your sound, not in any sort of studio trick. So I absolutely love this pick. Might come back to it. I don't know. Clevo, you have anything on this?
You know, I think the thing that I kind of think about these last two picks, the 86 Mentality and the Dead Stop, is I think a lot of these bands, you know, this is kind of after Striking Distance, and I feel like Striking Distance kind of has like a tie-in with both of them. But yeah, I think that there's like this point in time, like there's this sort of this lane of hardcore, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more too. That it's like, it's kind of like as like Amazing Core started taking off, you kind of see this like stripped down version of like simple, like people realizing like we can just play simpler songs that people want to sing along to, and people are going to like it. So yeah, I'm glad stuff like this exists because it stood out at the time.
Yeah, I think Striking Distance is influential, but also I think this Striking Distance, like if we're going back to like the post 90s Youth Crew episode and talking about buckets, I think that Striking Distance is one of the bands that straddles a couple buckets. I think they straddle like the tad meaner as well as like the fast bucket.
Yeah.
So, and then these ones they're kind of just in the fast lane, you know, straight up, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for sure. Dan, you want to speak on this at all, or you want to go right into your number 2?
I really like Dead Stop. I just don't know if Ben is allowed to choose something that is so influenced by Negative Approach.
I know, it's
all
kind of
crimes against humanity.
It's kind of bullshit, huh? We should just like take this rug out from under him. Like, Ben, sorry, you can't take Dead Stop. Too much NA influence. I'm with that.
Yeah.
Dan, number 2.
Okay, number 2. I am going to. All right, my whole strategy is up in the air, so I'm just going to choose a song that I have in my list right now, which is Righteous Jam's Rage of Discipline. Righteous Jam's coming off the back of Clevo's band Stop and Think. Joey C doing another band that is so kind of outbursty, Warzone-y, and like underdogish, to say the, you know, influential, but being very much of a 2004 sound at the same time. What's great, like we talk about really, really hard bands having like that yo mosh, like that kind of like bounce. Well, this has absolute groove and bounce as well, but in a just slightly different lane. And it is so catchy and so, I mean, if you listen to Righteous Jams and you are not bobbing your head, you're not alive. Like, especially this song too, like, and I love the vocal delivery, like, on his sleeve, he's got everything to prove. Like, it's really channeling the NY, you know, where the wild things are, but then even a little bit pushed over that a bit more, but the groove is there, and it's just so good. It's great. I absolutely love it. I love this song. And God, these riffs. I love these riffs.
Clevo, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I have this on my short list largely because the Righteous Jams LP, about half of it is the demo songs re-recorded. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to see Joey like not with a guitar, and you know, just really kind of taking the idea for Stop and Think like a step further.
Clevo, number 2.
All right. For my number 2, I'm going to take the song Litany by Fucked Up from their Litany 7-inch. Kind of going back to when we were talking about 86 Mentality. This is another, I wouldn't necessarily say this is oi, but there's definitely like a oi tinge influence, like street punk tinge, where it's like make simple songs that people want to sing along to, you know, and Damien just has those really like, has just like a really great voice for this type of music, and it's catchy, and it just makes you like you want to like jump on people and sing along to it. So this is before Fucked Up had their LP out. The LP doesn't come out until 2006. They have so many 7-inches before that, but I like the whole idea where they're for the most part, their 7-inches kind of had the same packaging. So like you knew a Fucked Up record when you saw it. And, you know, putting out these these, not even putting out singles. Like this 7-inch has 4 songs on it, but like they were just constantly putting out music at this time period. It was kind of hard to not, be aware of what they were doing at this time.
Yeah, this is great. This is some of my favorite stuff, like stylistically, up tempo, mid tempo, as fast as you could possibly downstrum with like a semi mean voice over it. It's killer. With all fucked up shit, like if it was cut in half, it'd be better in my opinion, but it is what it is. Like this is killer. Ben, what do you think about this?
They never really did it for me. The songs always felt too long. I don't know. I mean, it was cool seeing them play and talk and hanging out with Damien and nerding out on music, but they were never my thing.
Dan, you want to speak on this, or should I take my number 2?
Yeah, I really like this song, and I really love the way that it's both like very oi sounding and also like kind of like OC hardcore on the choruses. It's just a really, really great jam. Good job. Good pick.
Hell yeah. Okay, I'm going to take my number 2. I'm going to take the song Panic by the band Annihilation Time. This is my favorite song off this record, and I think that most people consider this the classic Annihilation Time record. Is that correct, Ben?
That is correct.
Yeah, I like the third one the most. I don't like the way this one sounds, to be honest with you. And I love the way the third one sounds. And I think the third one, like there's no fall off with the songs or anything. So it's just straight up the best record. But this is like maybe their most like old school sounding Black Flag song. Like they do like the Blast Black Flag stuff a lot, especially on the first record. But this is just like stripped down, raw, really short song, really catchy chorus. And ironically, Panic, the name of the pre-Black Flag band. So what's up with that? On this record, I think that the 3-song run of Worm, Panic, and Fast Forward to the Gore is my favorite little run of songs on this record too. So like it's kind of the meat in that sandwich. And yeah, I love it. I think this song is perfect. Ben, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's a really good one. I actually picked another song for one of my picks. Fuck it, I'm the next person anyway. Annihilation Time, Imaginary Mirror, the first song on the album, is my third pick, but that's a really good one too, Panic. And I'm sure it's not a coincidence that Black Flag's original name was Panic and Annihilation Time named a song Panic. That feels very intentional. This is the first LP with Jimmy Rose singing, and like seeing him singing in the band versus seeing Fred Hammer singing in the band is like kind of night and day. Like Jimmy had more stage presence, and I think they worked really hard on the first album to get Fred's vocals right. So if you've never seen Annihilation Time in your life with either singer and you just knew the records, you'd be like, oh, well, both these singers are good. Like, or maybe even I like Fred more, but I think Jimmy was just kind of more of a natural as a front person. But this is the kind of the key era for Annihilation Time, right in the middle. And I actually would say that I know the production on 3 is better, but I think the songs are actually better on Annihilation Time too. So I guess I'm more pro 2 than 3.
I think there's more Sabbath in this record, which is kind of like a logical next step from the first record. Like after they did the first record, I was kind of hoping they'd go like slower and spookier and heavier. And like when they went here, I was kind of confused, but at the same time, like they did give a lot of like that really Sabbathy stuff on this record, as well as like making it more up-tempo punk. And you're right. I mean, Jimmy is just a natural frontman and like, a punk lifer. So he slid right in. And, but I do just want to say for the record, in Buffalo, New York in the year 2002 or 3, whenever we met up on tour, y'all were sleeping by 10 o'clock and we stayed up all night. So what's up? Okay. Dan, you want to speak on this at all?
It's a band that I like, the members and stuff, but the style, as you know, like that blasty Black Flag stuff is not in my lane.
Dan, what is your third favorite song of 2004?
All right, I'm gonna I'm gonna do one for the pause man. I'm going Promises Kept by Champion. This is the opening track of the Champion LP, and boy oh boy is this a fucking banger. I love the way the guitars set the stage. Like, this is how you introduce an LP. This is so good with the atmospheric build, and then one guitar just goes like cuts through and just starts going, and then the drums come in with that like falling style beat, and X'd Up Fists and sing-alongs. Like, what more what more do you need as a lyric? Like, and you know, there's a bit of an elephant in the room, but a great song is a great fucking song. And when Posy Chris is shredding that guitar, you absolutely know some epic Edge jam is coming your way. And this is one of those. This is a brilliant song.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say on this because obviously Jim is a giant piece of shit, and then Chris is like one of the best dudes on the planet. So it is what it is. Also, Jim went and saw Weezer instead of going to see Egatrol when we played Seattle, so he should have gotten canceled like 10 years earlier.
The writing was on the wall.
Ben, you want to say anything about this?
I think I picked a song for 2001 Harrison and Broadway. That's like my go-to for Champion. That when this album came out, I think I got a promo copy of it somehow from someone, and it would that didn't connect with me the way the earlier stuff did. Yeah, it's hard to talk about. It's almost like Chris and Jim cancel each other out because one guy's like the best dude ever, and one guy's Jim. but I think I don't know. Maybe I kind of grew away from this sound that Champion does by the time this record came out. I mean, it's not bad. I have it. It's fine. It's good. It's just not what I was listening to in 2004.
Clevo, you want to say anything on this, or do you want to take your number 3?
No, I'm kind of in the same place as Ben is on this. I think that I really have kind of like, I think after like being out of bands and whatever, I was really like I wasn't looking for this style of music at this point. Which as you're going to see with some of these picks, because I'll just move into my next one. I'm going to take Cold Sweat, Steps of Churches. It's chaotic. I think that the guitar riff on this is really Black Flaggy. It's like a very it's hard to say, but it's like very aggressive, like very angry Black Flag. Not that Black Flag wasn't angry or aggressive, but it really at times the Cold Sweat record reminds me of like Black Flag mixed with Rorschach, which is kind of funny because I feel like Rorschach also was influenced by Black Flag quite a bit. But it's just really something that I think at this time I was just looking for stuff that was just a little more out there and just a little different. And, I think that it kind of burnt on the whole Youth Crew thing, like just trying to listen to different stuff and trying to like go back and listen to some of this Cold Sweat record. I haven't really listened to in quite a bit. And then in preparing for this episode, I listened to it. I've been listening to it a lot this past week, so I'm kind of glad I came back to that. But this is just like really wild, on many levels.
Yeah, this is a little out of my lane. It kind of reminds me of that band Red Tape. Do you think that that's an accurate comparison, Ben?
Yeah, I think Red Tape is a little bit happier sounding, but they're both very Black Flag influenced. Cold Sweat is a little bit more minor, dark. I don't know if spooky is the right word, but just, less happy sounding than Red Tape.
Yeah. How do you like this?
I saw them at the Smell probably around this time, and I think I wanted to like them more than I did because I love Black Flag and I love what they're going for, but it never connected with me, but they seem like good dudes. And it did kind of feel like a breath of fresh air at that point when they were coming out.
Alrighty. I am going to take the song Spit My Rage by Terror. Dan picked a good one. There's a bunch of great songs in this record. It's the last record that Todd wrote until the last Terror record. And this is kind of like a perfect melding of like when Todd, Nick, and Vogel are all like at their best. Like you have Nick playing this like really fast beat, and he has like when he's playing fast verses, he has such a cool like minimalist style. Like he's not doing a lot of fills. It's just like a straight. It sounds very chunky for being so fast. Like it's just super clean. I don't really know how to describe it, but I love it, and it works perfect because Todd's a wild man and knows when to like lean in and when to back out. Also, you have like Vogel, whenever he like comes up with like a classic ass catchphrase, like it's going to be a banger song, and like here it is, right? Spit my rage in your face, like perfect, dude. It's like everything you want in a Terror song, and then that mosh part on the end, Slayer as fuck, obviously, and Todd's right hand, dude. It's just like his right hand was blessed by the gods. It's just so fast and clean and gnarly. And like, this isn't like a fixed by computer ass album. This is like Todd in a studio, like just being a psychopath on guitar. So, yeah, it's all that stuff coming together. It's, a time and a place. Everyone remembers like, when Terror started, how gnarly it was. They were one of the biggest bands out the gate, and like completely deserved. Like there was no hate. It's just like, oh, straight up, like here's one of the best bands on the planet. What's up? And yeah, I mean, this record is like a little bit of a symptom of the times, like where bands had to do like longer records. I think that fortunately that's kind of been cut away now. Like you can just do like a 10 song, 16-minute LP if you want. So maybe you could shave a few of the songs off this record, but like you wouldn't be shaving off Spit My Rage. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be shaving off One with the Underdogs. You wouldn't be shaving off Keep Your Mouth Shut. You wouldn't be shaving off the one with like the Sports Center breakdown. I think that's not this time. You wouldn't be shaving off Overcome, like one of their best mid-tempo like ass beater songs. So yeah, I love this. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, and not to mention DeLord Isaac spitting his rage on this jam too.
Yeah, and Jamie Heatbreed.
Yep. Yeah. So, and it's so great because the differentiation of their two vocals, but they're both bringing it and sounding good, but one is sounding way more like it's almost giving like Path of Resistance vibes, like with the three different voices, where one of them is just like, Jamie, can you back off from the mic because you're about to melt the studio? It's such a good song, and the way that Vogel structures the vocals to maximize catchiness out of absolute aggression is perfect, because it is so catchy, but it is so aggressive.
Hell yeah. Okay, Ben, let's go to you for your number 4.
All right. My pick number 4 is going to be the song On the Outside by the Marked Men. This is the title track from their second LP and first for Dirtnap. Catchy melodic punk from Denton, Texas. That's kind of all there is to it. They have a really catchy chorus. What you'll see on the outside. I assume these guys are fans of bands like Screeching Weasel and the Queers, but there is absolutely no trace of jokey songs about farting in their repertoire. So if Pops ever calls these guys fart rock, I will wholeheartedly object. They're one of these bands that I think it took a long time for people to discover they even exist, myself included. And they sort of gained popularity right around the time they were breaking up. I don't know what accounts for this, but I can imagine how annoying it was for the members of the band, but that now they do occasional reunion tours, and I actually saw them earlier this year, and they were great. And so this is definitely the best song on this record.
Yeah, I love this band, but I only like the album after this, Ghosts. I think it rips a little harder, and this one is a little too like whiny pop punk for me. I've tried to like this one because I think that most people consider this one the classic album, but I don't like it, dude. Yeah, it is what it is. I don't like anything except for Ghosts. Although I will say that song, let me see what I pulled out. Right Here With You, like that's just a straight up radio song, like that's really good, but like maybe not super punk. So I had that as an honorable, and we can get that whenever. Clevo or Dan, are you familiar with this at all?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay, Dan, get into it.
What I like about the Marked Men is like they're that bridge between like what Ben referenced, like that kind of lookout pop, and a little bit of like the only ones, like the real power pop. And then there's even, especially with the record you're describing, Zach, and stuff, they almost incorporate a little bit of the jam a little bit later on. That gives it that little bit more hardness. Really catchy band. And yes, it is one of those bands that I think we all discovered after the heyday of the band.
Yeah, like were they really like a tried and true punk band? Like they always kind of seemed like they were like a South by Southwest like industry type band. Is that unfair?
I think you're on the nose there a bit, that they're playing more so with like college rock type shows a lot more than they're playing straight up punk shows. Kind of like the way Fucked Up is that for a hardcore band to an extent, you know, playing all those other shows a lot more than they're playing like the straight up, like just basement shows in wherever.
That's fair, but like Fucked Up did start out with like putting out all those 7 inches and playing like every basement, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't live in Denton, Texas, so I don't know the story of that, but Marked Men's rise is a lot more on the indie side of things than the straight up punk side of things, I think.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, let's go to you for your number 4.
All right, I'm going to go with what could arguably be my number 1 for this year, which is Boys from the Black Stuff by the Down and Outs. Title track off the Down and Outs LP. It's got the actual samples from the English teledrama The Boys from the Black Stuff, which is a gritty television series about people on the dole in Thatcher's Britain. And this song is bringing those themes forward to the end of Thatcherism and John Major closing down the docks in Liverpool, and the dock workers striking. This is after the miners lost their hellacious battle with the government, and then, you know, the right-wing government is trying to privatize every national industry, so the dockers were next, and that was in Liverpool. And this is a very Liverpudlian band singing, well, they even have the song, "We're not from England, we're from Liverpool." This is so catchy. This is one of the only songs that the guitar player known as The Ego sings, and I think his voice is so incredible. I love Kev's voice. I love Mark's voice on this, but there's just something about the way from 79 to 1990, the North was starved of air. The way like he delivers that first line, it just gives me goosebumps every single fucking time. I love this record, but I love this song more than anything else on the record, and so therefore it is on my list, and I'm really happy to have it.
Yeah, this guy has a great voice. I think that you and Chris have both championed this band on the pod. And yeah, it's sick. I don't really know how to describe it because it's like one of those really, it's like street punky, but very singy. It reminds me a little bit of like some of the bands that would be on Pirates Press in like the early 2010s, like maybe like that band, the Downtown Struts. Like it's kind of street punky, but also like the guy's voice is like so good that it kind of like transcends the genre. Yeah, this is a killer song. Great. I'm
gonna have to check that band out now. Then, if they're getting this kind of comparison, what a good way to describe this to people just listening that maybe have never heard it. Imagine the band The Lars if they were like on Hellcat or something like that. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Clevo, let's go to you for your number 4.
Okay, so for my number 4 pick, I am going to take a another sort of, I guess, punk adjacent South by Southwest type. I'm going to take The Explosion, Deliver Us, the opening track from Black Tape. I think that this song sounds the most like it could have been on Flash, 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 despite the major label production. And it's also the shortest song on the LP, which is kind of telling. But it's classic Explosion. You know what you're getting with them by this point. Really, I think this is the standout track on this album, despite, them re-recording No Revolution and having the song that's the single. But, this is really listening to this album, this is really my takeaway from it.
Dan, you loved the album before this. What do you think about this?
Okay. Has everyone seen 24 Hour Party People, the film? And like Paddy Considine plays Rob Gretton, and they're watching another ACR. They're watching ACR play, and he goes, "Oh, they have fucking betrayed us here." That's how I felt when I listened to Black Tape. I was like, this production choice and this like going for glory is just, they lost everything to me. They lost everything they were on this. Maybe I should go back and listen to it now and see how it really does resonate with me in 20 years on. But at the time I was like, shame on you, Explosion. Shame on you.
I really think that it sounds like a different album after this song. Like, it's weird enough. Like, yes, it does have that, but I think this song has more of an edge, and the rest of the album really does, when you listen to it, sounds like, oh yeah, this is a major label album.
That's interesting. Dan, you know how like on Out Come the Wolves, like the first song is the only fast song? It's almost like it's like a carryover from Let's Go, and then it's like Never That Again. That's kind
Matt
of
Freeman's like, I gotta walk this bass, motherfuckers.
That's right. Yeah, I never heard this. Ben, have you heard this at all? Do you like this?
I've seen The Explosion. I've never been a fan, so I wouldn't be able to tell you that the difference in sound between this record and the one before it. But it's really common for bands to sign to majors, to get a big budget, and kind of lose the plot. But I don't know where I would stand.
It's insane for you, Ben, to not be a fan of The Explosion. Like, you should listen to Flash, Flash, Flash. You'll probably love it.
I've tried at least twice to like, what? Wait, I must what's the deal? They're like Youth Crew kids who discovered the Buzzcocks like after they were into straight edge, or am I like making them seem
not at all? Not at all. And you're probably, I mean, just Damien is the only one that you could probably tar with that brush, which is not a bad thing. Like, that's a great thing to like Youth Crew and
yeah.
Buzzcocks.
Yeah. Oh no, someone that liked good music discovered more good music. You're only allowed to like everything that you ever liked by the age of 22, or
and
you're not allowed
wouldn't
to like
that be you as well, Ben? Someone who likes Youth Crew and the Buzzcocks?
Yeah, but the difference is, Dan, Ben's dad's friend gave him the Buzzcocks tape when he was in 4th grade, so he gets a pass and The Explosion doesn't.
Okay.
No, that wasn't my point, actually, but okay.
Well, you should listen to this LP because you'll like it. The majority,
this one,
the main song,
like this one. You don't even like this one, Dan.
What? No. I'm talking about Flash, Flash, Flash.
Okay.
The major songwriter was the songwriter from The Trouble, and that was great. Explosion was great. Chef's kiss to it all, except for Black Tape, which is a fucking betrayal.
All right. I'm going to take my number 4. I am going to take the song Nothing by the band Internal Affairs. Came out on their split 7-inch with the band Allegiance. And this is like the classic Internal Affairs song, right? A 5-second fast part, and then goes like the ring outs with like the bass going. And this is for you, LA song. Pretty iconic, for the era. And this is like them at their best. You know, like 45-second song, short ass fast part, big ass mosh part with a catchy hook. And, you know, when this breakdown's going, you can just picture Corey like doing that hard skank across the stage. And end it on like another like 5-second fast part and you're out. Pretty perfect hardcore song, dude. So that's my pick. Dan, what do you think?
This was on my list. This is such a hard song. It's fucking so hard. And it's funny when you say they were the angriest band, but you're like, well, Dennis and Andy, like, those are like legendary nice dudes. But Corey was so angry that it just emanated that they were such an angry band, and they also elicited a very angry response from most people who watched them. But yeah, this mosh part it's so good. And yeah, I mean, I'm not an LA fan, but I even get like chills on the "This Is For You, LA." I just wish it said SD.
Yeah, and not just like Dennis and Andy being nice, like you know, Sean was nice, Kevin was nice, everyone was nice that passed through this band. So,
absolutely,
you know,
Dwayne.
Yeah. Clevo, are you offended that this was a little lifted off of "This Is For You, Cleveland"?
Not in the least.
Hell yeah. Just had to run it by good old Cleveland for the sign of approval. Okay.
Well, Clevo probably thought they were talking about Louisiana.
That's right. Okay, Ben, we go to you for your number 5.
All right, I'm going to pick a song by the band Our Turn. The song is called Jailbreak. It's from the Catch Your Breath EP on Youngblood Records. For some reason, I remember this being 2003. I was wrong. This is 2004. I discovered them when they played the Sync with Cali Fest. And I was like the most burned out on Youth Crew like ever in my life. Like the last thing I wanted to hear was like a Youth Crew band. And when they played, I was like, holy shit, this is good. Like, so in other words, they had to be so good that some jaded ass ex-Youth Crew dude was like, okay, I need to own this right now. So, and I'm listening to it again today. I was trying to figure out like what band that came before them do they sound the most like? Because, you know, it's Youth Crew. There's like, you can think of 75 bands right now that kind of sound like that. And I don't know if maybe it's the Carry On Line Is Drawn EP. I'm not sure. I still can't put my finger on it, but it's very well recorded. Just really right in the pocket Youth Crew.
Yeah, we got a shout out to Youngblood for having this on streaming. So they got shit from us for so long for not having their stuff on streaming. Every time we look for something and it's there, we got to say, hats off, brothers. Appreciate you. Dan, what do you think about this?
Yeah, this is good stuff. Like, Carl is one of those people that Ben will be writing on a list because he has liked, you know, Blast style stuff, but then he liked Youth Crew and Uniform Choice stuff. So I don't know if he's allowed to do that. And then subsequently has done a really good street punk skinhead band called Sydney Ducks. So, I mean, he's getting lots of demerits from Ben, but dude knows good records. Our Turn always brought it live. And I liked that they were kind of like positioned like in that little spot between Wishing Well Records and like straight up Rev Youth Crew. They're kind of like in that pocket, as well as obviously being a little bit of the time in the early 2000s. But I really liked this record when it came out, and it's great to have this on the list for the year.
Clevo, this is a pretty short-lived Cali band. Did it even make it out to you and onto your purview?
It did not.
All right. Dan, let's go to you for your Dan, let's go to you for your number 5.
All right, I'm gonna go like my list in 2004, like a lot of these songs of the riffs are what are really like driving my like passion for a lot of these songs, and this one is no different. This song is the song 3 by Mental. This has like the epic da-na-na-na-na-na, and it has that negative space da-da-da-da-da-da, like riff, and very super touch, very just again another head bopper, like total bouncer, amazing. And then when Greg comes in on the vocals and goes break it down, it has that like crazy reverb on it, like just to give it even more like this is the song that's almost showing the pathway that they were gonna go on Planet Mental, but this is like the sweet spot before that marshmallow fell off the stick a little bit. This is like the Searching for the Light worship song, and I'm here for it. Like, if you're gonna worship a song, like, yeah, please worship that song because it is amazing. This is off the Mental Yo 7-inch, and I really love everything Mental did, but I think this riff and the way that it's played and the band is just firing on all cylinders on this song, absolutely great.
Yeah, this is all like having a pretty big resurgence now, and so Dan, I think you might run away with the winning list this time around. Locking Out really is having a renaissance, maybe you would say. Like, a lot of the modern hardcore, I think, is like, derived from either like, the modern hardcore, like in that straightforward lane, like the Gels and the Scowls and the Spies and all the bands that are kind of like in that bucket. Like, they're kind of pulling part way from this and part from like that Hoax lane. It's kind of like a mashup of these two things. And not a lot of like emphasis on the fast. It's more like the mid tempo and the bounce. So it didn't always like land for me. Although I think I'm going to take a Locking Out thing possibly next. But yeah, I thought that you and Clevo would be heavy on this, and I'm stoked that you are giving a loss of shine. And Clevo, I'm looking at you, kind of shaking my head. But
so
what do you think about this?
It's weird because I didn't really like Mental's first 7-inch or the demo. I think Get an Oxygen Tank is really, it's really where I finally was like, I thought they were a little too jokey, a little too for me at first, even though I don't think necessarily they were a jokey band. There's something about them that maybe I was trying to be too pro-core and they were just having fun. And I think maybe it caught up to me. Yeah, this song, I had this on my short list, but it's really, I don't know. It's just something that I think I liked Mental as they matured more. I think if we were talking when Planet Mental came out, I probably would have jumped over something like that earlier on. But yeah, I mean, they got really good at what they did and really deserve what they got. I mean, I remember I first met Greg, he like jumped in the van with Stop and Think and, came out with us. And I was like, oh, who's this weird kid from the Cape, like coming in the van? I had never met him before. And then, Righteous Jams and Mental kind of both took that, what we were doing with Stop and Think, and kind of like took it to the next step and did much better with it than we did.
Yeah, I would disagree with that. Like, I like what you did with it more. I don't know. Again, like, I'm not trying to say it's jokey. I think that like I'm a stickler for like not liking fun hardcore, and like this is definitely like fun. But I would say like those are two of the most notable and like best bands of like the straightforward hardcore lane in this era. Like, I saw them both. They were both excellent live, and like there is something to be said for like these songs. I think were really written for like the live setting, both Righteous Jams and Mental. Like, when you see them live, you're like, oh, this all makes sense, but as far as like, me being by myself and wanting to listen to a record, like, this isn't the stuff I reach for.
Well, may I just counter that a little bit? I feel like it's giving the same, or attempting to give the same levels of charisma that you're getting on Don't Forget the Struggle. Like, there's a lot of like straight up charisma, and like, I mean, the record is called Yo, and it's giving that like I don't know, it's just giving that like vibe. The Get Wise hat and the glasses. It's maybe it's a bit cosplay-ish, but his voice is so good, and it's just I love it. But I can also see that, that's fair criticism from you both.
But that's what it is, right? It's like it's trying to be something instead of just being something.
Maybe it's just homage worship that just is too on the sleeve for some. But if you really see that it's being done with an open heart, you can really tap into that spirit of hardcore of it. And that's the way I choose to.
I think that maybe at the beginning, and this is why maybe I didn't take them seriously enough at first, is I think they were that. But I think that they really came into their own. I think that they were kind of doing more than just like, I mean, come on, Stop and Think was really just like, we're going to rip off Outburst and be an Outburst band. I think they went beyond that. I think that they definitely, by the time the LP comes out, I think that they're moving more towards a, like, that post-hardcore Quicksand kind of sound. And they really did, like, Greg still runs a label that is, it's not huge, but, he sells records, and they kind of did become, a bit of a pro, like, I don't want to call them a procore band, but they toured, they busted their ass like, more than like a lot of the other bands did. Whereas at first, I didn't really see that from them. And I think I really appreciate kind of what they became. Like I said, like when Get an Oxygen Tank came out, the packaging and the whole thing was just like, I think they really did a good job with it.
100%. I mean, they're one of the most notable bands of the era. And also, like, even if I think that they're like trying to be something, like if you're shooting for like a vibe of Warzone, like it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? And like they do accomplish like, what Dan is saying, like that Get Wise hat, like they do give off that vibe. And like there were I guess it's talking about like these bands, like it's very similar to like, talking about Tragedy or talking about American Nightmare and or even like talking about a band like Pennywise, right? Or Sublime. You know what I mean? It's hard to judge the band by themselves on an island by themselves without like taking in all like the clones and all the fans and all that, you know what I mean? So like that kind of comes with it. And yeah, I don't really know how to say that, but you know what I'm getting at, right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing where it depends how you were taking things at the time. Like I was smiley face, loving hardcore, going to every show, wanting this, and you were like a little bit more like, so if this came around at that time, you're just like, it's not doing it for me. But maybe in a different time, or even if you toured with them, whatever, these different experiences. I mean, I love that, Clevo says that they take what Stop and Think's doing and take it to the next level, maybe in, like he said, in that procore manner. But it's the same, like Stop and Think, I just know of being like, sounding like Outburst and having like two of the best moshers in a band, like, and actually like almost moshing on stage, the two of them, like with their performances. It's so good. And then I feel like Mental is that next, like, where it's a little bit more bouncy and like just grooving and like doing the ooh and doing the like, the most like funky two-step like in place on stage. And I feel it was a vibe, and I loved the vibe personally.
Just the last thing to say that I wanted to say was just, like Clevo said, been doing a label for 20 years. Like you
Respect.
can never take that away from someone, right? Like that's full on lifer shit. So much respect. Okay, let's go to Clevo for his number 5.
So talking about vibes and going back to the Tragedy well, I'm going to take a song by the band Warcry, Under the Thumb, which is the second track on the Maniacs on Pedestals LP. Going back to the Feral Wardwell, this is a band that had Todd and Brad Boatwright from Tragedy and For Matches Rise, doing a straight up D-beat band that I swear to God, in this song, if he just yelled "smash to fuck the fucking system," it wouldn't be out of place. This sounds so much like, it just sounds so much like Discharge. It's Tragedy guys. I don't know how they do this, but they just are like, we're going to do a band. It's going to sound like this. And they just do like the best version of that band in every band they do. This band actually has a couple records. They did a 7-inch as it loads. They did a 7-inch in 2003. And then they have a couple LPs, even releasing stuff into 2014, which I guess is still 10 years ago. But really, this LP is great. It probably gets a little bit of like ear fatigue because it is that sort of D beat where it's very samey. But I really like this. It probably flew under some people's radars, and it's great. People should check it out. Of course, it's probably not on Spotify, but it is on Bandcamp.
Clevo going with that anti-Spotify yet again.
Dude, yeah, Clevo taking D-beat, but dissing Sweden. So take that, anti-CMX. Yeah, this is sick. Like, again, I don't have the ear for D-beat, so it's like very hard for me to like pick out like what's spectacular and what is like, you know, mid or even what is shitty. Because sometimes like the stuff that I listen to that I think is like kind of shitty is like the canon stuff, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, this sounds good to my ears, and hell yeah, I like the pick. What do you think? Dan, are you familiar with this at all?
A little bit, but I would like to get into it more. But all you have to say is Members of Tragedy, and you know it's great because, I mean, Criminal Damage is up the road a little bit, and just everything they do, like, oh, we like this sound. We're going to do a band like it, like Clevo says, and we're going to sound like we might be better than the original source material.
Yeah, and the production's always good, so that's a thing. Okay, let me see what I want here. I'm going to take a song by The Wrong Side so I get something off of Locking Out. Okay. This is my favorite of like the classic Locking Out stuff. I know they did like the Iron Age and that Terror record, and the Iron Age thing is probably my favorite of all of it. Did they do that, or did Youngblood do that, or was it a split thing? I don't know. Anyway, whatever the fuck ever. Like, of the canon, like Locking Out stuff, this is my favorite LP. This has so much personality, and there's just so much straight YOLO stuff, like especially on Sucker Punch, like, you know, a 30-second song that's just fast, and then like a mid-tempo breakdown with like double kick on it and out. Like, it's like a song that could have been like on the Terror demo, you know what I mean? But if I'm gonna take something, the other thing I want to say on this before I dial in my pick, because if I'm taking out Sucker Punch, I'm going to take either Hangman's Noose or Disaster Strikes Hard. I just want to say real quick, the production on this record is like really, really good. And I think it's a Jamie Locke record. So that's the dude that did Set It Off. So it makes sense. And that's sick that these like dudes like seeked that dude out and did it, because it sounds so good. Okay, I think I'm going to take... I'm going to take Hangman's Noose. And I love that, like, it's just a super short, fast part on the beginning. And then it goes into like a real nice, like, mid-tempo mosh. And then they go to like another riff that's like, you wouldn't expect it from this band, but it's kind of like integritied out, you know, even with like those cymbal chokes, like going into it and then coming in like on the mid-tempo. And then, so it's like, this band is tossing so much shit in here, right? It's like, okay, we got straightforward hardcore, then we got kind of this like integrity part, and then they're like, okay, let's keep this like, you know, mid-tempo mosh going, and they end on kind of like an antidote, like Something Must Be Done, like Peter Gunn ass riff. It's like, what the fuck? It's so sick that they like push all this together into a single song, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, that's my choice. What do you think, Dan?
I was going to say, what song do you think I would have taken if I because I had this. Well, I had this band on my list, and I was gonna take something.
I know what you would have taken, Dan. 2 words, straight fucking edge.
No, but I mean, what I was going to take was Feeding Time at the Zoo into a War of the Worlds, doing the
That'd be good.
classic Dan Sant move. Because that intro, Feeding Time at the Zoo, it's so sick. It almost sounds like Enter Sandman a little bit, but just like an absolute mosh stomp version of it. This band's spectacular. This record sounds amazing for the time and for how hard this sounds. It sounds so bright at the same time. This is a really tip-top recording, a tip-top band of the era.
Yeah, and also like it's so sick that they do that intro song second. So like they do this like 30-second like song Sucker Punch and then go into the intro. So cool.
I know, I love that.
But Dan, I mean, that is kind of shameful that you didn't take that song, right? 2 words, straight fucking edge. Like that's right in your lane.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's giving us like a throwback to the kind of the Rancor thing where you're like 2 words. I love it.
It's so good. It's brilliant. And also like this is a record that I don't have that I would really like. So if anyone out there has it, hook it up. I will trade you. Ignore Dan. Get at me first. 185 miles south at gmail.com. Hook it up, someone. Dan, what else do you want to say on this?
Oh, it's Clevo that wants to.
I know, but you keep jumping in on me. So did you have anything else to say?
No, I was just saying I want this record as well.
Okay, go ahead, Clevo.
So it's kind of funny because, you know, this is just Mental with Morgado singing. And the Yo record that Mental puts out this year was recorded with that dude Will that recorded Stop and Think demo and like all the other stuff. But the Mental record from 2003, the Get an Oxygen Tank, that was recorded with Jamie Locke. So I'm wondering if that stuff was all recorded at the same time, because I kind of think it's weird that this random side project is going to record with Jamie Locke instead of just recording it with Will. Which would be much easier to do. Also, you might change your opinion of the Wrong Side if you look at Morgado's picture on Discogs. So I don't want to ruin the band for you. But yeah, the other thing is someone when Richard Spencer, that white power right wing piece of shit, when that dude got sucker punched, someone re-edited the video of it with sucker punched, so he gets fucking punched to the song, and it's fucking perfect, and that probably should still be on YouTube.
That rules. Yeah, you know, the thing that sets this apart from, you know, the other bands like on this label at this time is there's a lot of mid-tempo stuff on here, but the backbone of this band is like fast parts. You know what I mean? Like even, let's see, the other song that I was considering taking, the Disaster Strikes Hard, like they go like fast on it, like kind of out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like it starts groovy, but they're like, okay, let's tuck in this fast part. So I don't know. That's like personal preference. Like I like fast hardcore.
I mean, you have DFJ on drums, which speaks for itself. And then, you know, I'm going to assume Dookie probably wrote all the music. So, I mean, that dude can write a hardcore song.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, let's go back to you, Ben, for your number 6.
Well, who says lightning doesn't fucking strike twice? Ladies and gentlemen, from Orange County, Instead. And before Zach gives me a hard time for picking an old school band in the year 2004, One World by Instead, and the second and third songs off of their Proud Youth discography on Indecision Records. Shout out Dave Mendel. Were actually recorded in 2004. And first released in 2004. So I think technically they're songs they had lying around that they just never had gotten around to recording, you know, circa 1991 or something like that. But this was our first chance of hearing this stuff. And it's a really cool song. It's got this like really thin sounding guitar intro. And then it goes, you know, has that fast Instead beat. And then it goes into this like chorus, like slowed down, stompy chorus just out of nowhere. Like there's no transition between fast and slow. and then dun 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 dun, kind of the breakdown section of the song, just feels glued together, but it totally works. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest song Instead ever wrote, but it's like very good. And it's always cool to like, we talk about like, what if Inside Out had recorded an LP instead of a 7-inch, or what if Turning Point had properly recorded that last batch of songs? It's like, we got our wish with Instead. We actually, dream achieved. We got the songs that were missing. So got to give them props for that. And I saw them in 2004 when they got back together, and they were great.
Yeah, Retaliate played with them. I think it was us Instead and Betrayed at that. It was like a little recording studio in Ventura.
I was there.
And then and then but they did like that bigger showcase show first. There was like a pretty epic show
with Over My Dead Body.
Oh, that's why it was epic. So, but yeah, that Instead show was pretty epic, and yeah, this is killer. It sounds like the second Instead LP, kind of like modern Instead, right? Like they got a pretty good modern recording there in 90 or 91 whenever they recorded What We Believe. So this is like right there. I don't know. Dan, what do you think about this?
I think it's a great pick, and I think it is very much true to Ben's taste and loves. And I think, any year you get a new Instead song, and it is, it's later on in, because those dudes were still around, especially Steve, like constantly being around core. So it's awesome to hear that something new. And, this, I don't want this to come off wrong, but when older bands come all the way back from a long time ago and give you new material, a lot of the time you're like, could you just have left it the way it was? But this is a really great track.
Yeah, and if people want more Instead, get in those 185 archives. Episode number 88 was Steve Larson from Instead. So what's up? Okay, let's go to you, Dan, for your number 6.
Okay, number 6. We're getting down to it. All right, I think I've decided what my 2 that I'm going to go out on are, and I'm going to leave, some other good stuff on the table, but my next song, I'm going to choose Can It Be So Simple by Cold World. And funnily enough, the Spotify version is Can It Be So Simple 05, but it was in 04 on the original record.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm not pulling some shit.
We'll allow it.
Okay. This song's so good. I loved when Cold World came on the scene. It's a lot of the time when you mix hip hop and hardcore, it can be disastrous to say the least. It can be it can come off really cheesy or worse. It can come off like straight up like cringe. And the way that Cold World incorporated like hip hop influence and hip hop, my boys in Retaliate have done the same thing too, like a sheer like hardcore lyric, but incorporating some like older, an older hip hop lyric, but flipping it. It's perfect. But what Cold World did, especially in this era so well, is have that the samples and the things where it's just enough of a touch to let you know, like, this is the influence, this is what we're bringing to the table, this is what we're raised on, this is what we absolutely love, but it's not done overboard, and it's not done in a cheese factor. It's done so well. And I loved the Ice Grill 7-inch, and yeah, another locking out production. And I also loved the Cold World record that came out on Walk All Night. Really love seeing this band live to this day. Whenever they play, they still put like just such a great, like, the way the crowd knows the songs and everything. It's just such a awesome thing. And, you know, the singer Dan living in England now, or maybe even Wales. I'm not sure, but I really love this. Did you like this when it came out, Zach?
No, and I still don't like it, if I'm being honest. It's one of the things that I've tried to like, you know, for 20 years, because you like it, and I know Dawn likes it, and Dawn likes it enough to like even wear the shirt. So, I mean
They are
that's
the
sick,
masters of merch too. They are
Yeah.
literally the masters of merch.
Yeah, which I mean, again, if I'm being honest, is like another turnoff for me.
Oh.
But well, I don't know. Like you like fashion. I've never cared for fashion. So again, that's like personal preference. I'm like not judging anyone. And this band is cool. Like I get the appeal. And they've really like kind of turned into a pretty legendary hardcore band at this point. So I'm not hating on it or anything. I've never like been able to get into it, and I've tried lots of times. So I don't know. Good band, just never resonated with me. I think that, you know, a lot of like the stuff that would be like labeled like tough guy in like the 90s, like, you know, I liked almost all of it. And, you know, a lot of people that were like in the straightforward hardcore lane, like didn't like that stuff. And at some point, like it got adopted like into like the main line of hardcore. And
Death Threat brought it in.
Death Threat. Well, not just Death Threat bringing it in. It was Bridge 9 putting out Death Threat. So like it kind of gave a permission slip for like all like the, you know, the fucking squares to like the stuff that they like poo-pooed before, you know, and like, and that's cool. Like, and also like, you know, Terror, it really merged the scenes, right? Of like, you know, Carry On and Buried Alive were not in like the same lane at all, you know, like now while like the people in the bands, you know, probably liked each other and liked each other's bands and were like hardcore tried and true, like your average like fan of each band like might not fuck with each other at that time, you know, and that seems very strange to like say now, because like everything is so, you know, everyone likes everything, or not everyone likes everything, but everyone likes a piece of everything kind of. But it's real. And so like, I don't know. I guess like part of me at the time was like, well, I already like fucking E-Town. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and none of these motherfuckers like E-Town. You know, Cold World probably liked E-Town, but the Cold World fans probably like fucking looked at E-Town sideways, right? And it's like, well, okay.
Like
so
I did at the time. You're right.
Sure,
you know,
sure,
you're right.
Sure. So like maybe like again, I'm being an asshole, like on hating on like the fans at the time of a band, and like it's you know, and that's why I never got into it. Much like again, it's like, you know, a lot of people don't like Pennywise and Sublime, and it's like I think that it's because like they think, you know, Pennywise fans are like just bros, or like Sublime fans are like just white dudes with dreadlocks. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you're not wrong, but the bands kick ass regardless. So I can admit that like this is probably, I had like blinders on to not love this stuff at a time when self-admittedly I was like a fucking lame ass bitter asshole. Like there is nothing worse than like a hardcore kid in their early to mid 20s that think that they know what's up. You know what I mean? Because like, yeah, you're like 24, you think you know what's up, like you're like kind of a scene veteran at that point. You know what I mean? And like, no, dude, you're just like a fucking washed up piece of shit. You can be a washed up piece of shit at 24, and that was me. You know what I mean? So like, so much of our tastes in hardcore are like, you know, us adopting things like early, or it being like a fabric of your life at some point in your life. And like this stuff didn't like grab me then. And it's been a little hard to get into like post haste, where like, you know, something like a Dead Stop, I didn't love it at the time, but like I got into it like in the early 2010s and I've loved it ever since. So I don't know. Do you think I'm being fair, Dan?
I think that's a really fair assessment, like a self-assessment. You probably didn't love this at the time because you were like, fuck it, I like E-Town, and most of these people who like this are going to think E-Town sucks, but yet it's pulling from the same kind of vibe. It is coming at it a little bit differently, but I'm interested to, when this entire playlist gets built, I'm interested to hear back from you in like a couple weeks after listening to like the playlist from time to time and being like, actually, that song goes.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's also something to be said for like the record scratching in the song. Like, this is like right after like Limp Bizkit era. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's giving me some Bizkit vibes, dude. And I know people like that band now, but it's like, I don't know, dude. I didn't think that shit worked.
I think it does because the way it's flipped in a very like hip hop DJ way, but I can also see it's right there. It's right there on the edge.
But how is Limp Bizkit not a hip hop DJ? It's literally a hip hop DJ.
It's DJ Lethal, but it's also fucking Fred Durst coming in. This has got somebody else coming in right after it, and they're just, I don't know. It's just a taste level thing, right? Like 100%. They're referencing something like with good taste, whereas Limp Bizkit, I don't think comes through with good taste, even though the fucking dude went and sought out DJ Premier to like produce a track for them. So there's obviously good taste there as well, but it is also, his vocals are so mind numbing. And if you love Sublime and you love Limp Bizkit, come on down to the Whistle Stop for Worst Music Ever. Because we're going to serve them both up for you.
That's right. Clevo, do you have any opinion on this?
I like this much more than I liked it in 2004. And I actually have been listening to both of the EPs from this year a lot this past couple weeks. Yeah, it's definitely grown on me. Oddly enough, though, the one song that I had on my list that I'm not going to take is like the one that's just like a straightforward hardcore song. There's no scratching or anything on it. So, but yeah, I do like this a lot more now than I did then.
Ben, do you want to speak on this, or should I shoot it to Clevo for his number 6?
Yeah, like you, Zach, when this came out, I thought, oh my God, this is like embarrassing. And then I got into Pillars of Ivory a couple years ago, who are mixed, hardcore with hip hop as well. And it made me think, wait, how do I like this? And I didn't like Cold World. And then I went back and listened to Cold World, and I thought, this is so the hip hop influence is way less in Cold World than it is in Pillars of Ivory. And it's not how I remember it. Like, they're much more of like a straightforward hardcore band than I remember. Like, my memory was like, these guys were like, yeah, well, like, oh, like, moshcore meets Limp Bizkit, hip hoppity, Cool G rap guest verses, but like it's way more straightforward hardcore than Pillars of Ivory, for example. So I can't really put my finger on how Pillars of Ivory, made me a believer and not Cold World. There's no real explanation for that.
Yeah, this band had great art too. Like, that first LP art is so good. So I can say that. Okay, Clevo, let's go to you for your number 6.
Number 6, I am going to take from New Jersey's Full Speed Ahead, the track Drain Pool from their album Born to Lose, which we didn't talk about before, but Dead Alive Records had become Manic Ride Records. And they put out quite a few things this year that we've actually talked about, the Cold Sweat, and I think something else. Oh, the Annihilation Time. So that label was doing kind of all over the place, just kind of really kind of encapsulates what was going on in 2004. Full Speed Ahead. Yeah, they're from the Jersey Shore. Straightforward hardcore. This track, I mean, from the title Drain Pool, it starts with a sample of a dude doing a grind. And it is like straight up skate rock. Really reminds me of that sort of Beware Records, skate rock, McRad, Faction, Odd Man Out sort of stuff coming out in the late 80s. And it has just like a really skanky chorus part. Really into it. And also there's pus head art, so it's kind of really, it definitely harkens back to an earlier time. But like I said, just really straightforward hardcore, skate influenced, and another record that I kind of hadn't thought about for a long time, and picked it up this past week and have been listening to it a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware that this album existed. I know they did the split with Kill Your Idols, and I had that 7-inch that came out on Teamwork. And also, shout out for the Floor Punch episode, that 7-inch was recorded with Elap. And he was on the pod for a minute there. So shout out. And yeah, I didn't love that 7-inch. So I guess I just never realized this came out. This is like years later. I'm excited to check it out because Clevo, you've never steered me wrong. You got great taste. So I'm excited to listen to the song. Ben, are you familiar with this at all?
No, like you, Zach, I have the split with Kill Your Idols and maybe in one other Full Speed Ahead record, but I didn't know they were making records this late. I thought they were kind of very late 90s, very early 2000s. So I'm excited that there's more music by a band I already like that exists that I wasn't aware of.
Hell yeah. Dan, you got anything on this?
I have this record, and
sick.
It's good. I think I might have picked it up in like a dollar bin or something along that lines. Like
just when we were hoping someone could say something positive about it. Dan says it's a dollar record.
No. I'm just saying, like, what a bonus! What a Brucey bonus to pick that up. Like, okay. Because I only grabbed it because I'm like, oh, this is the band from the split with Kill Your Idols, and then grabbed this record, and it's a good one.
Sick. Okay, I am gonna take my number 6. I am gonna take the song "That Ain't Real Much" by the band Blacklisted. This is off their second 7-inch. Our Youth Is Wasted, and dude, I love this song. This is like another like kind of epic minute 30-second song. It's a song that definitely exists like in a post American Nightmare world. This song reminds me of AN a lot, and if I toss this into the AN catalog, this would probably be like a top 5 AN song for me. So respect. It has a super short fast part on the front end, which is something that I always love because like a mid-tempo song is like whatever. But if you just chuck like a 10 or 15 second fast part on the front of it, like it makes that song so much better. You know what I mean? And so this has a super short fast part, and then it goes to like this ring out with like the kick drum going, like the dun, 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 dun. But instead of being Hatebreed Under the Knife, like they bring in like a riff and the singing over the top of it. That's like a trope that I absolutely love. And it's like a very long ass build-up part, but it's kind of like it gives me the vibe of like the AN song, if we throw this life away, will we ever have to live again? You know how like that part is like so long before like the breakdown comes? And it's so sick. Like if I was there writing the song, I would never allow it to go that long before the breakdown comes in. But the fact that like AN goes that long or Blacklisted goes this long, like it just like exudes this confidence. It's so sick. But the AN song goes into like a mid-tempo breakdown. This goes into like a pretty big like down-tempo breakdown. And like the payoff is so big and his voice sounds so good over the top of it. And again, it's just like, it's these little hardcore punk epics, you know what I mean? Where it's like they were able to tuck so much into the song that's only 90 seconds long, and I just absolutely love it. Dan, you familiar with this?
Yes. This is a band that in the last 10 years I've come to appreciate a lot more than I did during the actual tenure of the band. I mean, I liked them. I liked seeing them live. I loved seeing the response they got. They got like that similar maniacal response from the first front 3 or 4 rows, just like an AN would, but in time in the last 10 years I've really gotten into the records a lot more and really enjoyed them. And if we're talking like you're talking the Cold World LP having some of the best artwork ever, the first Blacklisted LP, that photograph down on the little dock in Philly, oh my god, photographed by my friend Melissa actually, but it's just such a perfect album cover.
Yeah, and strangely, like, changed on a repress. Like, one of the weirdest, like, repress decisions I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Okay, we're going to the heartbreak round. Ben, what is your final pick?
My final pick is a song called Vietnam by the band Clorox Girls, who were from Portland, Oregon, but then they relocated to LA at some point with different members. It's confusing. But this is one of those bands that played regular ass punk in the 2000s, and Vietnam it's like leaps and bounds their best song. Like, I wish they had other songs I liked as much as this one. It's strange, but they made one great song. That's more than most bands can say. Obviously, the band name is named after the Red Cross song Clorox Girls. The singer of this band appears in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where he does sign language for someone and then gets into a fight with Larry David on a golf course. So that was kind of interesting, seeing him in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. They're sort of like, they've got this Zero Boys vibe to them. Like, he kind of sings with a Southern accent the way Paul Mayhern from Zero Boys does, even though one band is from Oregon and the other band is from Indiana. So why are either of them kind of singing with a twang? That doesn't really make sense. But it's just kind of 77 inspired punk, but a little bit more manic than anything you would have heard in 77, a little bit more up tempo. Just a really catchy song.
Yeah. Ben can somehow choose his 7th favorite song of a year and then also insult the band by saying they only have one good song. It's quite spectacular. Dan, have you ever heard of this?
I've heard of the band, but I wasn't familiar with this song. I just listened to it while we were on, while Ben was talking, and it is awesome. It's such a good song.
I'm excited to listen to it. If it's one of Ben's 7 favorites of the year, it's going to be good. Clevo, any familiarity with this?
Not at all.
All right. Okay. Dan, pick a Justice song, dude. Come on.
That Justice are going to be my first honorable mention because
that 7-inch is so good. And who's going to pick it?
And not just that. I was going to take Every Inch by Justice, but I'm gonna have to have that be my first honorable mention because I have got to choose. And this could easily have been my first pick of the year too, but I've been laying it in wait, being a little strategic, and I'm taking "Who's That Boy" by Hardskin. Now, if you want to know what 1 minute and 13 seconds of perfect, like, catchy, tongue-in-cheek, just great vibe, amazing song sounds like, it's "Who's That Boy" by Hardskin. This is so catchy, like, fast choruses, oh, who's that boy? And then, like, the verses are even faster with, like, like that. It's so great. Like, you're going to love it. Listeners, you're going to love this on the playlist. Hardskin are maybe one of the most fun live bands I've ever seen. I've seen them 3 times. Every single time I've seen them, I've been like, is that in my top 5 shows of all time? It might be, because Fat Bob on the mic is just absolutely hilarious. Fat Bob is what he's known in Hardskin, but it's Sean from Wat Tyler, really. And if you're a fan of the humor of Fat Bob on the mic at Hardskin shows, there's also him as a Rough Trade record employee at the Rough Trade record shops talking about different bands and on YouTube, and those videos are also hilarious. So dive into those. But this is just an absolute perfect Oi song. Got to have it on the list.
Yeah, another band that I've kind of always avoided due to my aversion to fun music, but excited to check. I'm excited to check it out. What?
I hate fun.
I'm excited to check it out. Again, it's like you plucking something off. So, you got great taste. That's why you're here.
I know Clevo likes this.
Clevo,
I was gonna take "Make My Tea"
Yeah,
earlier on.
another banger.
Oh, that's such a good. It's the dumbest song, and it's such a good sing along. Also, prior to this album, it's just like this is such a weird band because the original drummer for Hardskin was the drummer from Lush before he passed away.
R.I.P.
Which is just like so weird when you think about like a guy from Wat Tyler and a dude from Lush writing like great Oi songs.
Yeah. And it just goes to show like people who do other kinds of music still have great taste and rock Oi, you know. And also Johnny Takeaway was from Thatcher on Acid. So it's just absolute different people coming together to do this and like doing the formula of Oi perfectly, because the only way you can when you are you have an amazing love for it.
Okay, Clevo, let's go to you. Heartbreak round. What is your final pick?
I'm going to take from the Boston supergroup Get Down. I'm going to take the opening track, Questions and Headaches. This was a band that had 185 contributor Tony Pops, Anthony Papalardo, and AZ from Panic, American Nightmare, Jeff Newman, Mullet of the Mullet Board fame, and Dave Murphy on vocals, doing post-hardcore DC sort of in that vein. It's catchy, it's quick. It definitely has like a Jason Farrell Swizzy like guitar lick in it, and it's really catchy. And of course, it's not on Spotify, so no one's ever gonna know how good this is. But I love this. I love this record. They also did a record on Painkiller before this. This was a record famously that took forever to come out. And they really only pressed there's probably only 300 copies of it. But 2004 it finally came out, and just want to give this some shine.
I think that this is actually on Spotify. I'm seeing it right now. Maybe it's like a different recording, but Get Down, Questions and Headaches. I'm looking right at it.
Oh, well then there you go. And I saved this for last because I didn't want to like just take a bunch of non-Spotify stuff. So if it's on Spotify, then everyone go listen to it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking right now. Anthony Papalardo, composer, so you know it's good. Dan, are you familiar with this stuff at all?
Yeah, I listened to it at the time and enjoyed it, just on the strength of like a band full of rad dudes. But I will admit I have not listened to it probably since 2004, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting down on Get Down again.
Hell yeah. Okay, this is ending up poetic, dude, because Ben took his Knife Fight song, Burning Bridges Part 1, as the first song of this, and I'm going to do the right thing here. I'm going to take Burning Bridges Part 2 as the last song of this playlist. So his chunks starts it out. My So Ends the Night ends it. Again, this is just a great 7-inch from a great band of the era, and all sick-ass dudes in the band as well. So shout out Knife Fight, one of the best, and this song is one of their best songs. Ben, how do you think this one stacks up to your choice?
You can't go wrong with Knife Fight. I don't know. I'm a part one. I'm a part onesman.
Yeah, and again, like if I was choosing this straight up, I'd probably choose Destruction. I think I like it a little more, but I'm doing the right thing for the sake of the playlist. Just like when I can't remember if it was Dan or Ben, whoever got first pick for 1983, and you didn't pick Annihilation. That was some bullshit. I would never do that. You know, sometimes like when you have a certain pick, you got an obligation to do the right thing, and this is me doing the right thing, picking Burning Bridges Part 2.
Well, didn't I get bumped from my first pick because of that?
That's true, but I didn't feel good about it, you know, and you're still holding it over my head, so it hurts. All right, as quick as possible, honorable mentions for the year. I got Donnybrook, Fist Over Fist, Piece by Piece with Fuck Life. Dude, classic Piece by Piece, 41 seconds. All 41 seconds are dope. Shout out Corey. In fact, let's just do the whole Donnybrook Piece by Piece split. Allegiance, Never Said a Word. Internal Affairs, No Way Out. Vendetta, Step Off. Vendetta, See Right Through. Shout out to the 185 Patrons. You know that song. Let's go. You think I'll give a shit about what you do? Fuck you. You know it. Blacklisted, Left Alone. So sick early in like their career, like to do a song that is straight up bright side into Life of My Own, you know. Dead Stop with Dead End Path. Marked Men, I put Right Here With You. Mind Eraser with Psychotic. One of the best integrity inspired songs there is. It's just super slow and haunting. Righteous Jams, I had Bust It. Iron Boots, Copitude, shout out Rabies. Mental with the song Bootleg. Have Heart with Lionheart and also Reinforced. Shout out for the Outspoken cover. Much respect. Had a backup Annihilation Time song. Fast Forward to the Gore. Justice. Bummed it's not on the playlist. I had Look Alive and On Thin Ice. Shout out to touring the country circa 2002, 2003 when there would be a band called Thin Ice on every other show. Death Before Dishonor, the song Dead to Me. Dude, this is a song where like those lyrics, if you find out they're about you, you might like throw yourself off a bridge. And also shout out to the Slayer ass riff on the end. Much respect. No Turning Back. I should have probably chose some off this record, just because Knife Fight already had the shine. This record sounds so good for like this era when a lot of bands were still not getting good recordings yet. I pulled off the song Don't Cross the Line. Yeah, just the recording is so good, and the dude sounds like a 1990s Roger from AF. Terror had some backup songs, Not This Time, Overcome, but mostly Not This Time with that Sports Center mosh. Also, Dead Stop, I had All I Can Take, and I also had What You Say, which it starts out so awesome with like the Wish version of the Bad Religion Modern Man lead. So sick. That's what I got. Dan, honorables.
Well, I had the same No Turning Back song. I'm going to keep it really short. Every Inch by Justice, War All the Time by Direct Control, Get a Life by Lights Out, Make My Tea, Hard Skin, Never Enough Time, Desperate Measures, Feeding Time at the Zoo, Into War of the Worlds, Wrong Side, oh God, my thing just closed. Hold on.
It's okay. We go to Clevo for your honorable mentions, and we'll come back to you to finish, Dan.
All right.
Hard Skin, Make My Tea, Mind Eraser, The Cave LP, Mental, Yo, Iron Lung, Cold World, Ice Grills, and But You Don't Leave Me Though. Cold Sweat, War Cry, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Mannequin Piss featuring members of Heroin and Mario Rubalcaba, Das Oath,
Members of him.
and Wrangler Brutes, the band that Sam McPheeters did. That's all I got.
Dan, close it out with yours.
Rise Above, the band, that entire release, epic.
Okay, Ben, 30 seconds.
Carbona's Frothing at the Mouth, Strung Up, Heard It Was So, Deadfall, No Such Thing, Mental, Climbing Aboard, their cover of the Supertouch song, Kill Your Idols, We've Tried Nothing and We're All Out of Ideas from their split with 7 Seconds, Stand and Fight, Stand Tall, Hot Snakes, Reflex, The Missing 23rd, Duna, and Gorilla Angreb, De Kommer Ud Om Natten. I'm sure I butchered that. That's all I got.
All right. Dan, final thoughts on the year.
I mean, it was a time where almost, especially in Southern California, but even we toured Europe this time, and we also did a thing that just was great vibes at shows like during this time, pretty much and all the best venues were still going at the time. It was just a, I don't know. I've got misty eyes thinking back to 2004, and there is some great music. I'm really excited for this entire playlist, and I'm excited to see what the listeners think about all these choices.
Yeah, everything was like pretty on fire at this time, but I gotta say, like playing shows in NorCal in 2004, like NorCal was like on fire. You know, all the Gilman shows were sick. Danville Grange, you know, like. And all, you know, I mean, a lot of the Amazing Core stuff was like out of there, and it was a thing. And maybe that's not like represented too much on the playlist, but it's notable. And we're gonna do a podcast about that at some point. So maybe that already came out by the time this comes out. But I mean, just because things aren't in vogue doesn't mean that they're not important. And, even some things that aren't important doesn't mean that they weren't important to individuals. So, yeah, a lot of that stuff was like popping in a very good way. And like, even if you're not necessarily into like the music, like those shows were like something special. Like in the same way that like, I wasn't into like real fastcore stuff, but like I could go to like a The Oath show and like have a fucking killer time. You know what I mean? But I'm not like listening to that by myself at home.
Yeah, and this stuff is all cyclical too. That kind of rivalry amazing core stuff is going to be picked up by an influential band as a reference point at some point, and then we're going to see a whole slew of it again because hardcore moves like that.
Ben, final thoughts on the year?
Kind of thin as far as my personal interests, but it's funny. I think of myself as having been sort of jaded the way you were, Zach, at the time, and just doing this exercise made me realize there was quite a bit of good stuff from the year. So that's part of the reason why I love doing these years, even in years where I think at face value, I'm not going to find anything, is that I do find stuff and I think, you know what, that was a pretty swell year after all.
Mm-hmm. Clevo, final thoughts on the year?
Yeah, I went into this today being like, my list is pretty thin. I was a little worried about it, but I left quite a bit of stuff on the table. So, every year is a good year for hardcore if you look deep enough.
Hell yeah. Everyone, much love. Check out the playlist, 185milessouth.com, or just find it on Spotify. And check out the music that we're talking about, because that is what it's all about. We're just a bunch of talking heads, and it's more about put on the record and dive on your couch. You know what I mean? And one last time, shout out to Bob72 from the Knife Fight 7-inch. Much respect. And we'll talk to you again next Monday on Patreon.